Hi, my name's Sally Henry. I'm Vice President of Business Development for KeyData, and I'm delighted to bring you some market data trends. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to walk through the performance of Greece as a whole and dive into a few of the key areas. We'll look at performance first of all, so that's occupancy, rates and revenue. And then we'll take a look at some of the traveller trends that we're saying, so how long are they staying for, what's the booking window, and what channels are they using to book with. I'll then show you a quick sneak preview of the all-new KeyData dashboard that is being launched this month. Okay, first of all, a little bit about KeyData and how we get our data. So we are integrated with property management systems all over the world, and we take daily reservation data from our clients. We also scrape the OTAs on a daily basis, around 30 million API calls a day, and we train those two data sets together. So for any KeyData client that's integrated with us, we provide a wealth of business intelligence tools so that you can understand your own data and then give the ability to compare an individual performance against the rest of the market. I'm going to share some market trends with you today, and I'm going to highlight two areas. So many will come from our directly integrated clients, but I'll also give you a view of the wider market as well, which is that wider scraped market, because we are seeing a difference in performance. Okay, so first of all, we're looking at occupancy. And when we say occupancy, we are measuring through our direct source clients paid occupancy. So we know a guest has actually paid to stay at the property. And why does this matter? Well, it lets you know how full your properties will be on a certain date, and it helps you understand your performance over time. And it's the highest indicator as to whether you have your prices right. So if you're seeing lower occupancy, it might be time to reduce your prices. And if your occupancy is really strong, you may be able to push your prices up a little. So it's a really strong indicator of how your prices are balanced with your occupancy rates. So first of all, just looking back over the years, so we look back at 2019, that pre-COVID year, and we can see what's happened in paid occupancy in Greece. So we can obviously see in 2020, when we had all the travel restrictions, we saw occupancy right down, and we've seen it steadily climbing back up. So it's almost back at 2019 figures. So marginal increases from 2022 to last year as we re-establish ourselves post-COVID. Now, what I want to show you here is, we call this a pacing slide. So what you can see on the left is the 2023 versus 2022. So that's in the gold and the red. And then what we're doing is we're looking at all confirmed bookings on the 4th of June with all our direct clients. And we're seeing how we are pacing compared to the same time last year. So as you can see here, that red line of 2023 is showing you where we went through last year. And where we're actually at on this year, 2022, is that dark blue line. So we're pacing 22% versus 18% at the same time last year. But we can see if we follow that blue line with the red, so we can see actually in quarter one, we were pacing a little behind 2023. But looking ahead to the summer, and we will dive into the summer, we can see that we are pacing further ahead than when we were in the 4th of June last year. Now, the shaded area that you can see is where we ended up at the end of 2023. So that shaded line is where we are aiming to get to or beat if we can outperform on last year, and we are currently pacing up. So this gives you a clear visual. It helps you see just how strong that summer occupancy is, and then obviously it falls down as the summer season finishes. So looking into some of the key areas, and again, this is for arrivals now in the summer, and we are looking at arrivals in June, July and August, and seeing. So we can see for Greece as a whole, we are pacing 35% up. This is from KeyData integrated direct clients. So we're seeing a really strong performance overall in Greece. But there are areas, so if you see Athens, we're currently pacing 4% down for summer arrivals. So it really does differ by markets, and this will once again differ by your portfolio makeup. So if you are predominantly apartments, villas with a sea view, with a swimming pool, it will differ. So I urge you to understand the occupancy for your particular portfolio set. You can see Crete is strongly outperforming the rest of the market and helping drive those summer occupancy figures up for Greece as a whole. Now, if we look, that was taking a view of the KeyData integrated clients, which tend to be professional hosts who are using tools such as KeyData and other maybe pricing revenue companies as well, and understanding their data. When we take a look at the wider market view, then we see a similar story, but not quite as extreme. So we can see where we're pacing for 2024 versus 2023, we're marginally up. We're at 17% rather than 16%. So again, we can see 23 to 22 finish pretty flat. And then we've seen really January and February trading flat like we saw with our direct source, but we're not currently seeing that uplift in our summer pacing that we're seeing with our direct clients. Now, again, this includes the entire market, so it could be single owners, but it is helping you to get a view of the landscape. So we can see here summer's a little mixed, and we'll dive into some of the areas on the next couple of slides. So overall summer occupancy, looking at the broader markets and scrape data, we're looking at -1%. So, a little bit subdued to where we were this time last year. And Athens, we're seeing a similar picture of negative pacing that we saw with our direct clients as well. But we are seeing Crete and some of those areas where we're seeing positive pacing in our direct clients, we're also seeing a more positive picture. Looking at Thessaloniki as a whole, we're also seeing some negative pacing there. So it's really important to understand where you're sat with your portfolio and how you're performing compared to your own market. You don't want to compare yourself really to the whole of Greece or to the mainland if you're on the islands. And equally, if you have different portfolio types to some of your other competitors, then it's important to understand how those bookings come in. So please understand and segment your own data so you understand the relative performance within your own market. One thing we have noticed within our data team has pulled out is that we are seeing that the shoulder periods are gaining popularity, and we're seeing these booking further and further. So that peak that we saw is flattening out a little. So this is good news to try and attract additional revenue on the shoulder periods like either side of peak. So please make sure you adjust your prices to take advantage of those guests who are looking to travel just outside of that peak period. Okay, now we're going to look at average daily rates. And I know we sell in length of stay, but the average daily rates is effectively the amount we've taken for the stay divided by the number of guest nights. And why does it matter? Well, it shows you how your prices are changing throughout the season, and it also allows you to benchmark your prices against your competition as well. So again, just taking that historic look back, we can see how we have effectively climbed each year. We pretty much flattened out between 2022 and 2023. But if we look back to that 2019 pre-COVID, we're seeing around a 50% increase or 58% increase in prices as we're currently sat. Now, looking at how we're pacing. So again, this is from our directly integrated KeyData clients. We finished up pretty flat, 22 to 23, but we're currently pacing at €189 as an average daily rate versus 132 this time last year. And as you'll see, as a reminder, the dark blue line is effectively this year. The red line was last year. And then we can see where we actually ended up at the end of last year with that shaded area. So we're pacing ahead for all months, all arrival months at the moment. But what I would like to point out, that shaded area is lower than both lines. And that's because as we get closer to arrival, prices will come down. The closer we get, we will see that fall. So I think the question is, depending on your type of portfolio and looking how high your prices are sat, is it time to bring your prices down? If occupancy is softer, we can see they're sat incredibly high at the moment. We do know they will come down. It's how much you want to control that booking profile. So again, looking at summer arrivals for June, July and August from our direct clients, we can see a plus 40%. We just saw it on that slide there, really driven by those higher prices throughout the year, particularly in the summer. We're not seeing this everywhere. Certainly in the United States, we are seeing prices coming down when we're seeing that softer occupancy. But we're showing, strong ADR growth for the summer. And in particular, Crete is outperforming other parts of the mainland and driving some of those prices up. When we look at the broader market, so again, now this is looking at the entire market, not just KeyData clients in Greece, we can see again, we're still seeing an increase in the average daily rate, but it's not as high. There's parts of the year Q1 that were pretty flat. March was up a little, April was back flat again. And we're seeing a marginal increase with a flat August at the moment. So once again, we see that prices will come down. We see that shaded areas where we finished up the year. But just remember that those bookings made earlier do tend to command the higher ADRs. But we can see a similar trend, just not as exaggerated across the wider market. And again, if we look at that, see if there's any areas in particular that we're seeing that increase in ADR. And this is more tempered growth. This is single digit rate growth, ADR growth across all the different regions. So again, understand your property portfolio, your size, your property type and the features that it has when you're doing your ADR comparisons. So now we're going to look at RevPAR. So this is another word for revenue. And this is effectively ADR multiplied by occupancy. So this is really the biggest metric to show if you've got your prices right, that you've balanced occupancy and your prices. If you're priced too high and don't sell anything, your RevPAR is going to suffer. And equally, if you're 100% occupied but charge too little, once again, your occupancy will suffer. So this is one metric that will allow you to see what is the revenue you're taking home for yourself or your homeowners at the end of the season. So again, we normally see some pretty exaggerated, because it's a combination of prices and occupancy. We can see a similar story. So we've seen this RevPAR growth through the years post-COVID, and then we've seen a tempered growth from 22 to 23 as the market flattened a little. When we're looking at it, our direct source clients and looking at RevPAR as of the 4th of June, you can see that really due to those high increases in prices, we've really driven that RevPAR up. So, 22 to 23 relatively flat, Q1 relatively flat, but we're seeing some strong summer pacing right now. Obviously, there's a long way to go. And I'd like to point out that that top line is flattening a little. It's not quite as peak. So we are seeing some June and September helping us flatten that mountain shape at the top. So finding that strategic balance between your rates and occupancy is really the aim as you navigate through the next 3 months. So looking at that reflection, that summer RevPAR growth in Greece is exceptionally high for KeyData clients. They are clearly getting their prices right and they're getting those bookings through, but more exaggerated for some regions and others. And again, Crete really outperforming and driving some real strong growth there. That positive RevPAR in Athens, driven by higher prices as opposed to the occupancy. But RevPAR is the metric that should really be driving your revenue management strategy forward. So if we see how this looks for the wider market, this OTA scrape data, and we can see RevPAR is marginally up by not as much as we've seen with our direct source clients. So January and February is pretty flat. In April, we actually pacing down. March was up a little. That's how Easter fell. But we can see that peak of how much we still have to sell this summer to reach our peak occupancy in August and those peak rates as well. So if we take a look at that scrape data view for summer arrivals, and overall we're seeing a positive RevPAR growth for Greece in the summer, plus 4%, but it does vary per region. And again, I urge you to dive into your different regions to understand how you're performing within your own portfolio specifically. And this is a metric we often use if you're representing homeowners. If you start to talk to them about this balance between occupancy and pricing and effectively this RevPAR, and use data to help have that conversation, we find it does help homeowners understand where your strategy is. And if you're recommending that they either lower or increase prices and the reasons why, we find that really does foster a really concrete conversation with your homeowners. So now we're going to take a look at length of stay. The average length of stay is effectively total guest nights divided by the guest arrivals. So it's showing how long your guests are staying for and effectively how long is your property full for. And you need to measure this through different seasons and different regions. It will alter. So we're seeing something quite unusual in Greece. When we look at the rest of the world, we are in the main seeing a contracting of length of stay. We're seeing stays shorten. But actually what we're seeing for Greece right now is we are pacing up, which is very unusual compared to the rest of the world. So we can see 23 to 22 finished down a little by 0.2 of a day. But we can see from May, all months are pacing up compared to 2023. So it's super interesting to see. You can see again that shaded area, which is where the year ended up. As we get closer to arrival, the average length of stay will get smaller. People tend to book for longer stays further out. So again, understanding the length of stay means you have your operational, you've got your cleaners aligned, and it also shows you where you may need a gap night strategy or may be able to offer early check-ins or late checkouts to get some additional revenue. So looking at this for the OTA scrape data, you can see it's marginally shorter. It's not quite the same view, but we had a slightly higher length of stay in January and February. Then it's been pretty flat as we've gone through the season. So it's one that you need to understand to see if you need to be offering those gap night strategies through to any of your channels. And when we look at this is Q2 arrivals that we looked at finished with our directly integrated clients. And you can see here that the highest percentage, like people staying for 3 to 5 days, is just short of 62%. So it's the majority of reservations. The 1 and 2 day stays have stayed pretty consistent, but those longer ones, those 30 plus days, have seen less reservations than we saw this time last year. And again, looking at this by channel, it's quite interesting to see what the different channels brought in by length of stay. So the booking.com average of 4.4 nights, and these are for Q2 stays. But then you can also see here that that was increased slightly based on last year. Direct have a longer length of stay at 5.2, but that's shrinking compared to last year. And then you can see Verbo is the longest length of stay. We see that consistently across the globe. And Booking.com sat around 4.2, so quite similar to Airbnb, but edging up a little. So it's important to understand what the channels will bring to you in the terms of bookings. And again, just what I was saying, like if we are seeing gaps, if we are not seeing the full 7 nights in peak season, or you want to try and encourage people through, then having that gap night strategy or offering those early check-ins or late checkouts for additional revenue could form part of your strategy. So now we're going to look at the booking window. So this is the length of time between a guest making a reservation and arriving. So this allows you to look at your pacing. It allows you to understand your marketing spend and your marketing channels. So when should you be advertising? When are you expecting the bookings to come in for your type of portfolio? And therefore, what should you do with your pricing if you're pacing ahead or behind where you're expecting to see the bookings come through? So what we can see here from our direct sourced clients on confirmed bookings by the 16th of June. So booking windows in 24 are pacing slightly longer than in 2023, only by a day, so not enough to change your marketing channels per se. In 23, we finished about a week longer than we'd seen in 22. So it's one to keep an eye on, and equally, if the market is getting a little later this year, we have a lot of disruptions ahead. Make sure that you are aligned within your marketing channels to see what you're expecting to be bringing through in terms of confirmed bookings. And once again, you can see that shaded area for where we ended up at the end of 2023. So those booking windows obviously come down the closer we get as we go through the season. So again, we're looking at Q2, which is finished at the end of June, and you can see what percentage of bookings come in within different times, and it is always super interesting. So you can see here 78% of revenue is booked 30 days out, and that's from 61% of reservations. So you can see that, it's super high, 26% of reservations for all our direct integrated clients arriving in Q2 booked within 14 days, so within 2 weeks. But that only accounted for 11% of revenue. So people booking close to arrival will be effectively paying less in the main. And you can see there the 7% of bookings that were booked 6 months out accounted for 17% of revenue. So using multiple booking strategies and multiple channels will help you balance that mix. And if we look here at length of stay increases for Q2, so that booking window, so 1 to 2 days, staying 1 to 2 days, shrunk a little for Q2 arrivals, 3 to 5 had shrunk a little, but that 6 to 8 days had grown slightly. So, that's something we're looking at, and again, understanding what we're seeing as we go through with that distribution shift. So again, why booking windows matter is to understand what you think you should be bringing through. And we have a report called Occupancy Pickup that a lot of our clients use to monitor when they can help set their pricing, set their expectations as they navigate through the season. So just again, a quick look at the booking source year to date. And again, it's really interesting to see. So on the books, percentage of 2024 check-in, we see booking.com for our direct clients brought the highest number of check-ins at 50%, Airbnb coming in at 43%. Vrbo way down at 2% and direct accounted for 5%. But when we look at it as a percentage of revenue, Airbnb brought in a higher 48% versus Booking Direct 43%. So if you are with the channels, understanding the pricing you're putting on those channels and what they'll bring for you, again, is really important to be optimized at the right time. Okay, and again, just like which channels are winning out and which are losing, again, it's something is always super interesting to see. And we can see here Airbnb gaining a little ground at the expense of Booking.com, at the expense of direct. So again, I know this differs depending on your type of property and also whereabouts you are in Greece with your portfolio. Some areas are stronger than others. So I would urge you to understand the strengths that the channels can bring you and make sure you are optimized on your channels for success. Okay, and as a little follow on from that, not all channels are equal. So the average daily rate we saw a hint of it earlier, but the amount that someone will spend on different channels. So Vrbo tends to bring in the most expensive ADR at 220 versus someone like Booking at 113. Direct there is coming in the lowest. I do know that some property managers do inflate prices on the OTA, so it's to be used carefully. The data is to be dived into and understood, as you know. One that I would probably note the closest is the average booking window for when you can expect the bookings to come in from these channels, to make sure you have your properties and portfolio optimised at the right time. Okay, so just to conclude, summer 24, it's going to need strong navigation. It's looking positive as we look at the data now. Those prices are looking exceptionally high. For those to be maintained, we're going to have to see occupancy pick up. So I think getting a handle on all your distribution, understanding your feeder markets has never been more important. We can see off-season travel is increasing. You have challenges with your high heat, someone that might push people more to shoulder periods. But also, if your feeder markets are in the Euros at the moment, if they're heavily into the Olympics, if there are elections going on, which we have in many European countries right now, then there are distractions, and understanding those feeder markets and how you should be resonating with your clients is really important. So be aware of everything around you. There's an awful lot of the summer still to sell. It's looking positive, but make sure you digest into your own data and understand it, and understand how the market's reacting, that you don't get left behind. It's clear to see that KeyData clients are outperforming the general market. And I have here just a small view of what the new KeyData dashboard is, and if we can help you in any way. Stama members do receive preferred rates for KeyData. Please feel free to contact me. My email is on screen, sally.henry@keydatadashboard.com, and I'll leave you with just a short snippet of what KeyData dashboard can do to help you and your business.
Welcome to the all-new KeyData, the leader in property and market-level short-term rental intelligence. With unparalleled personalization within your dashboards, an AI-powered knowledge base, and 3 times faster speed, the all-new KeyData delivers the fast insights you need to help you grow with confidence. Let's get started with this intuitive, beautiful new user interface built from the ground up. Here, you can create and segment your dashboards with the reports you need most. Add a benchmarking report to understand how your properties compare to the market. Then, drill down by unit type to easily spot differences in rates, occupancy, and more. Resize and reposition your reports to see everything you need at a glance. Or, compare your property's current performance with their historic performance to see how they're pacing for the current year. You can even separate your dashboard by user. Now, revenue managers, marketers, or executives can have the insights they need all in one place. No more juggling between tabs. There's no faster way to get the insights you need, so you can get working on growing your business. Have questions along the way? The all-new KeyData is here to answer them in real time. Simply type your question into our AI-powered knowledge base to find trusted answers to your most common questions. You can ask what a KPI means, how to use a report, or where to find information in your dashboard. It's your 24/7 assistant. Have additional questions? Your dedicated partner success manager is available to answer your in-depth questions, provide advice, and help you make the most of your dashboard. In addition to a faster and more customized dashboard, the all-new KeyData is mobile-friendly. Access your key metrics, automate reports, and review your company snapshot anytime, anywhere. With the all-new KeyData, you're in full control. Analyze any or all of the 45+ available KPIs in one place and add to your dashboard at any time, all at no additional cost. Ready to experience the all-new KeyData? Contact us to get started.